Assalamu alaikum. Peace to the gods, peace to the earths, and all of the righteous families of the planet. It's your big brother Fahiym, aka Day Son of Law, back again with another bill for the family. Today I want to deal with a subject that it's been a real debate topic within the 5% nation. And among many different groups of 5%ers, this has always been a topic of discussion and, other disagreements. The subject I want to talk about today is Master Fard Muhammad, the founder of the Nation of Islam, the original first founder of the Nation of Islam. And of course, this knowledge that we are spewing today, that many people would look at and call hate teachings, anti-Jesus teachings, some sort of heretic type of, wicked teaching that we're teaching. But Master Fard Muhammad is the founder of that information. He's the first one to come and tell us that the black man is God, the white man is the devil, But Master Fard Muhammad, was he a prophet or was he a god? This is the point of contention that we reach now with a lot of different groups of 5%ers who have this knowledge. Some have it to say that he's only a prophet. He's not no god. He just came, delivered a message, and he went on about his business. Others who have these lessons that are more orthodox, with it, they say, no, he was a god. He was the man who, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who was his star-studded student at that time, the way the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad presented him to us is who he was. He was a god. He was Allah in the person of a human being. But that subject has always caused lots of, disputes and contention among different groups of 5%ers. So today I want to deal with that topic, for my newborns. Because at the end of the day, as I mention all the time, this is a teacher-student channel. And this channel, as I always tell people, it is more geared towards new students who are just getting this information, just getting this knowledge. They may have heard of the 5%ers from back in the days, in the 80s and the 90s, through a lot of individuals who have, put on our flag or rocked our banner and, claim to be one of us, whether they were true to the culture or they weren't true to the culture. Our movement and organization, our nation, basically, has been propelled within these last 25, 30 years by the youth. So as a channel that is trying to keep the teaching alive, the traditional teaching alive, as AZ once said in a song, I'm just trying to carry out tradition, the 5%ers. I forget the exact bar that he said, but it was a song, I think, with Nas. And he said, I'm just one of the 5%ers trying to carry on tradition. Well, this is the Muslim gods. This is, for the most part, we're more orthodox in the sense of we do everything by the book or by the literature and the teachings that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us. This is what makes us Muslim gods, because we don't veer from what the messenger said. What the messenger taught us, we look at as God's word being emitted through a human being to us. Allah's truth, this universal truth being transmitted through a human being, a melanated human being. So this article that I have that I wanted to just read just a few lines from was done by one of our great Muslim God brothers, Dr. Wesley Muhammad, aka True Islam. And this was an article that he did back when he was with the Allah team. Well, technically he's still with the Allah team. It's not like he ever left the Allah team, or left being a 5%er, because in the 5% nation of Islam, as Muslim gods, we don't shun our brothers if they decide to go and get registered in the mosque. We look at that as a good thing. Hey, that's a good thing. Just like the Father. The Father didn't look at that as a bad thing. And that's why he sent some of his own back into the mosque. So we don't look at that as a bad thing. And, Dr. Wesley, True Islam, has still been standing and walking his post in a perfect manner, always being on the alert. So we have to give him that credit at the end of the day. And even though this is an older writing that was done back in the days, a lot of the footnotes and messages that arguments rather, that he's presenting in this piece of literature, I think is still very vital today, and very important today, that a lot of our new students, for the most part, understand what is going on with our lessons. So Dr. Wesley Muhammad says in his article, Master Fard Muhammad, prophet or God? Which one is he? There has been quite a bit of talk lately about Master Fard Muhammad, whether he was a god or simply a prophet. As is known in the Nation of Islam, among the Muslim God circle, it is taught that he is God, the supreme being of the universe. Others, such as certain members of the Nation of Gods and Earths, and he puts in parentheses, though certainly not all, because of course not all of my brothers in the Nation of Gods and Earths, think as baby gods. Some of them think as, big gods, wise, intelligent gods. But just a vast majority of their cipher, I found that because they don't have all of the information, because they're half-learned individuals who never were imbued with discipline or no type of structure, we tend to see our brothers all over the place. But there are certain brothers that I have to admit, within the Nation of Gods and Earths, that are very astute individuals when it comes on to these lessons. Big ups to, my God brother, Black God Ra. Black God Ra is Nation of Gods and Earths. I haven't seen the brother in a few months, but I'm sure he's still Nation of Gods and Earths. But the thing about it is, when you talk to my brother, you would swear he's a Muslim god, because he has strict allegiance to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, even over Father Allah, which in most Nation of Gods and Earth circles, no one is put over the Father. The Father is the top of the food chain. But as Muslim gods, we know and understand that the Father was incomplete. He had a good idea, and he did the best, that he could to implement that idea. But the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, we know, has a 40-year history. And most of his history, some of it in the beginning, back in the 1930s, when he was a young man, a young baby Muslim god, just getting the knowledge. He was a baby in wisdom. We understand that. But a lot of what the messenger said during his latter years, like during the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, a lot of brothers are not privy to that information. And this is why I tell a lot of my brothers in the Nation of Gods and Earths, it's okay to visit Muhammad's mosque every once in a while. You don't have to go and become registered. I'm not telling you to do that. But go and build with some of the student ministers. Pick their brains. Ask them questions. This is what I did, and this is how I came into an understanding of these lessons. But with the little incomplete versions that we've been getting as 5%ers in the streets for the last 25, 35 years, it hasn't been sufficient enough to grow us in our understanding the way we should be developing. So he points out not all Nation of Gods and Earths brothers think like this, but a good amount, the brother says, teach that he is not God. Master Fard Muhammad is not God. He's only a prophet who simply brought the knowledge of God to the wilderness of North America. This latter claim is based largely on the fact that in some early literature, such as Lost Found Muslim Lesson Number 1, or as 5% as we say, the 1 to 40, Master Fard Muhammad is referred to as Prophet W.D. Fard. The argument is that he originally identified himself as prophet, but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad later understood him to be God. The claim is that Master Fard Muhammad never called himself God. This is what some of our brothers in the Nation of Gods and Earths, purport. That he never called himself a God. It was just Elijah Muhammad who said that, but he never, he never said it. But if he did call himself God, of course, then those who deny that he is God, yet hold on to the material he brought, i.e. the lessons, they are blind. They must count Master Fard Muhammad a liar or ignorant of his own self. Either way, one could surely not maintain any allegiance to the lessons, which, after all, are the record of exchanges between him and his student, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, both of whom would have taught that Fard is God. So the question is, did Master Fard Muhammad himself claim to be God? Why is he called a prophet in our lessons? So our brother, Dr. Wesley probes this question now. And we look now to see sources where we can find, did Master Fard Muhammad call himself God? Or was just something that Elijah just came up with and began calling the man? So, the brother delves into it. He goes on to say, it is in this context that we must understand Master Fard Muhammad's statement, recalled by the ones who heard his very first address in Detroit. This is some of the first students or followers of W.D. Fard back in 1930 in Detroit, Michigan. Master Fard Muhammad says in front of a group of people, "My name is W.D. Fard. I came from the holy city of Mecca. More about myself I will not tell you yet, for the time has not yet come. I am your brother. You have not yet seen me in my royal robes." Stop right there. Now, this was a message that W.D. Fard gave out to a group of individuals, some of his followers, of course, but some of his first followers. And he told them that I'll tell you more about myself, but right now, this is a mission that I'm on right now that I came to do. I'm your brother. I'm just like you. I look just like you, but you have not seen me in my royal robes. So royal robes, as Dr. Wesley Muhammad points out in this footnote, royal robes are clearly a metaphor for his glorious divine form and status. In other words, to be more plainly, royal robes represent the melanated body of the original man, the original black man. Master Fard Muhammad may have been half original in terms of his physicality, his physical being, his physical appearance, because his mother was a Caucasian woman and his father was a black person, a black man. So he may have been half original in that sense, but on a mental or spiritual note, he wasn't half original. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad knew him to be of the original nation, the original black gods. This is what royal robes symbolizes, that carbon-based melanin that black people have that, Nick Cannon spoke about with Professor Griff on his show that got him ousted by the Hollywood community of so-called Jews. We have the highest emission rate We can emit all types of electromagnetic light, from the light spectrum, that black body. We emit, we take in this light, but from it, we process it and emit back out the information that we gain from it. In other words, we are like, you plug in something and it gives you sound or whatever. This is the black man. We're giving you information from the universe, from the divine core of the essence of the universe. You can only get that from a black body, a black man. So Master Fard Muhammad is in a disguise, but he's telling us that you've not seen me in my real true form yet, but I'm just like you, your brother. So he goes on to say, thus in the lessons as well as in the editions of the Allah's Temple of Islam's early newspaper, The Final Call to Islam, Fard is referred to by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad as a prophet, not God. He came among the black community in Detroit humbly, not as God, as a servant or silk peddler. Some have understood these early descriptions of Fard as prophet to indicate that he was not therefore God. The claim is that he never called himself God. He called himself prophet, but Elijah eventually exalted him to the God status after Fard left. But this is incorrect. See, this is incorrect information. So again, some 5%ers, or most 5%ers, I'm not even going to say some, most 5%ers, because we know in every cipher there's an 85%, there's a 10%, and there's a 5%. Our beautiful Muslim God brother, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, expressed that to us. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad later on, because a lot of individuals didn't study the messenger during the 50s, 60s, 70s, because a lot of 5%ers didn't study his writings during that time, we miss out. We miss out on so much vital information that is important. It can help us in understanding these teachings. Firstly, Master Fard Muhammad never called himself prophet. He called himself God. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad was in an interview with one of our brothers, Hatim Saib, in 1951. And he told Brother Saib, he did not teach us that he, Master Fard Muhammad, was a prophet. Listen to the messenger's words very carefully, people. Very, very carefully. The messenger says, he did not teach us that he was a prophet. We used to call him a prophet. Listen to his words. I made the followers call him prophet because I did not know exactly what name to give him. Are y'all listening? Elijah Muhammad says, I made the followers call him prophet because I didn't know exactly what name to call him. The messenger goes on to say, no one called him prophet before me. First, I thought we should call him master. Later, I thought we should call him prophet. And later, I told him that he is neither or either. I said that we should call him Almighty God. He, Fard, came to Chicago and delivered a speech in which he said, I am God himself. The messenger says, I looked at him and he looked back at me when he said it. He did not say that I'm a prophet, but he said, I am God. I am the one who comes in the last days. So this is a very, very important sighting that we get from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1951, which clears up a lot. I could really just stop here and done the video right here at this point. But no, there's more. There's more. Because Master Fard Muhammad proclaimed this to several people. He didn't just tell the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad who he was. The messenger knew who he was anyway from the first day he saw him and met him. The messenger went up to him, as we are told in our history, and said, I know who you are. You're the one who comes to redeem us in the last days of the white man's rule, of the Caucasian man's world. And Master Fard Muhammad looked at the messenger and said, yeah, you know that, but who else knows that? So just shh, keep that between, me and you on the hush. But here the messenger says when he got up, Master Fard Muhammad, and he was doing a speech, he did a lecture, and he was in front of a crowd of people. Not a big, large crowd, but a few hundred people easily. And Master Fard Muhammad stood up in front of them and said, I am God himself. And that's why the messenger says, I looked at him. He said, he looked back at me. Like the messenger was probably saying to himself, man, I thought we wasn't supposed to tell nobody that. Like, what the hell? Like, you just let the cat out the bag. Yo, you telling them who you are. But Master Fard Muhammad told people who he was. Dr. Wesley Muhammad says in the footnote, it is thus inappropriate to seize these early characterizations of Fard as a prophet as the final word. The author of this characterization, who is the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, admits to only trying out the word prophet. He knew that wasn't his name, and he knew that name was too little of a name to give him. But he was just trying it out as he was searching for the right terminology. When Master Fard Muhammad and his secretary Ugan Ali first visited Elijah at his home in the fall of 1931, according to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Fard said that he was the Mahdiya. He was the Mahdi. And that he was Allah, who everyone expected to come 2,000 years after Christ, who was crucified at Jerusalem. Point number 4. It was thus Master Fard Muhammad himself who is the source of his own characterization as God, Almighty God. It wasn't nobody else. It wasn't Elijah Muhammad who, later after Master Fard Muhammad, departed from us, began calling him God now. And, well, a lot of people who weren't listening, who weren't, as studious as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, with the teachings and with his studies, they rose up to kill the messenger when he started teaching that Master Fard Muhammad wasn't a prophet, he was a God. Evidently, they missed that. They didn't hear that for some reason. But according to other individuals who were in the Nation of Islam at that time, and news articles, and even the police department, even the Detroit Police Department, Master Fard Muhammad told numerous people who he was, and he didn't say he was a prophet. He said he was God. Fard's divinity as a black man was apparently part of the teachings at the temple on Hastings Street in Detroit, Michigan. Robert Harris, after sacrificing his roommate Joseph Smith on a makeshift altar in his home on November 21st, 1932, claimed he was ordered to do so by the gods of Islam. Ooh, man, let me stop right there again. This is Robert Harris now, this is known information in the Detroit papers. You can sift back through through your archives and get it. But he was a member of the Nation of Islam. And they were sacrificing people, doing human sacrifices. One such individual named Robert Harris sacrificed an individual. But the thing is, he said that he was told to do this by the gods of Islam. The gods of Islam, which he believed to have been Master Fard Muhammad and the scientists. Master Fard Muhammad, of course, and Ugan Ali, who were the, two top ministers in the Nation of Islam at that time, along with Elijah Kareem, or the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. But Robert Harris referred to these individuals and the 23 scientists as the gods of Islam. He referred to himself as a god. So this puts a hole in the theory that the brothers in the Nation of Gods and Earths try to say that Elijah Muhammad wasn't teaching the black man was God. He wasn't teaching the black man was Allah. They wasn't going around calling themselves gods. They didn't start doing that until after 1967 when the father started to proclaim that. Cut your foolishness out. Are you kidding me? From back in 1930 and 1931, 1932, 1933, 1934, people already knew that these lessons grew you into being a god. This was known information. When the detectives Oscar Berry and Charles Snyder entered the temple on November 22nd, 1932 to arrest Ugan Ali, who was Fard's right-hand man at the time, they said Ugan Ali was up at the podium proclaiming himself the god of the Asiatics. So as we know also, the Moorish Science Temple of America, Noble Jew Ali, he alluded to the black man being God, or God being a black individual, but he didn't teach his participants individually, yeah, you God, you God, you a God, you a God. He didn't teach that. And that was the reason why when the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the early 1940s and 50s, would go around and meet with some of the brothers in the Moorish Science Temple, they thought his teaching was some old ancient Egyptian mystical teaching. Because they was like, wow, he's teaching us that we gods. They didn't call themselves black people in the Moorish Science Temple of America. They only referred to themselves as either Moors or Asiatics, the Asiatic nation. But Ugan Ali was telling some of the early followers, because as we know, after Drew Ali departed, a lot of his participants began to move over into the Nation of Islam. And as they came into the Nation of Islam, we captured them in that mindset that they were in and tried to elevate them from that point. So we knew that they called themselves Moors and Asiatics. So Ugan Ali says he's the god of the Asiatics, trying to awaken our brothers and further their understanding of these teachings. But Dr. Wesley goes on to say it was not just two gullible Negroes that Master Fard Muhammad revealed his divine identity to. At First Precinct Police Station, Fard told detectives Berry and Snyder that he was the supreme being on earth. He told Dr. David Clark, a psychiatrist at the Detroit Receiving Hospital, who observed and diagnosed him for 5 days, that he was the supreme being on earth. Fard's claim to divinity was published in not only the Detroit newspapers, but in the Chicago papers as well. These reports are likely the basis of the claim made by Brother Yusuf Muhammad, who was another one of Master Fard Muhammad's early followers back in 1930. When police asked us, Brother Yusuf Muhammad says, when police asked us, or asked him rather, they was with him, they were all together, but the police was questioning W.D. Fard, and he says when police asked him who he was, he said, I am, listen to his words carefully, I am the supreme ruler of the universe. He told these police officers. Brother Yusuf said he told those police officers more about himself than he ever would tell us. But in our knowledge degree in the student enrollment, we're taught that the original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, the father of civilization and the God of the universe. But here we have Master Fard Muhammad telling police, the Detroit Police Department, that I am the supreme ruler of the universe. So Master Fard Muhammad basically did not limit himself to prophet, and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Brother Ugan Ali, Brother Robert Harris, and many of his first followers knew that that name prophet was too little of a name for him. So I'm just going to stop it right there because I don't want to build too long on this subject. I think I've given out enough documentation and stuff that brothers could sift through the information through some of the early NOI archives and find a lot of what I quoted, which were direct quotes from Master Fard Muhammad himself. You can go pull out the Final Call to Islam. You can go pull up some of the old Muhammad Speaks newspapers even, where brothers that, did articles and talked about Master Fard Muhammad and told you what he said himself out of his mouth. So even though we see him represented to us in the lessons as a prophet, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he was the first one to even call him prophet. Nobody called him prophet before the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So these are things that I would like for my newborns to study and, basically get the information raw and uncut. Don't deal with second and third source information. Get information raw and uncut from the source. The sources are here. All we have to do is open our eyes and look. So as I close, Jesus says in the Bible, he who seeks shall find. He who seeks will find. So as long as you're doing the seeking, you will undoubtedly find what you're looking for. And with that being said, I'll leave the brotherhood as I came in the greeting words of peace. We say it in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum.